Okay.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the BeMobile show. And we have a very special episode today because we have a very special guest. Now, this guy sitting next to me sent me in his credentials beforehand. So I'm going to read, no. So Nick is the Director of Clinical Trials in the Department of Endocrinology for RPA Hospital in New South Wales Health, an Associate Professor in the Faculty of Medicine and Health at the University of Sydney. He's also the founder of Interval Weight Loss, which is a research-backed approach that's been independently validated and ranked as the #1 sustainable weight loss program in the world by a study at the University of Wollongong. So a big welcome to Dr. Nick Fuller. Thanks for coming on, Nick.
Oh, look, it's great to be on. Second time on the show.
Yeah, well, on that note, yeah, you have actually become the most frequent guest on the BeMobile show, as you say, with the record of 2, beating the previous record of 1, which was also held by you.
Awesome.
But you did co-own that record with someone else, so now you are the sole record owner of the most frequent guest. So I think that says something.
I feel honoured. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, we're very honoured and grateful that you're going to give some time to our BeMobile members. So thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, looking forward to talking all things weight and health.
Yeah, great. So as you know, Nick, we basically focus on exercise. So BeMobile, we help our clients get fit and strong. Most of our clients being largely 55 plus, get fit and strong so they can basically live the life they want with the people they love. And we really focus on exercise. That's where our expertise lie. But a lot of our members do know how important food and nutrition is to living a good life. So that's why you're here today. So in a tick, we're going to dig into it. We're going to dig into all things, basically eating healthy, weight loss medications, and lots of other things that come up.
Yes.
Great.
Lots of topical stuff. We could probably talk for hours.
Yeah, and we're going to, just for our members who are watching, we have allocated an hour for this one today. We might not use it all, but we'll see how we go. So why don't we get stuck in? I think it's worth, Nick, just letting people know, first of all, that how we met. So Nick and I, for transparency, we are friends. We met many years ago at a mutual friend's Bucks party. So our mutual friend is Buddha, or Buddha is what I call him. Do you call him Buddha? Or just Mike?
I do. Geez, we've come a long way since those days, haven't we?
Yeah. So it was a mutual Bucks party or Stags party. I'm not sure what people in the UK or Canada call it, but Buddha was getting married and Nick and I had never met each other. I was quietly sitting in the corner of the pub reading my textbooks on physiology. And I looked up and there was this tall, handsome guy carving up the dance floor with a drink in hand. And I said, I've got to chat to this guy. And maybe that's stretching the truth. I don't really remember the night that well. So I'll let Nick defend himself. Yep, good. No, he's got no defense. So that's how it happened. No. Yeah, basically we met there. And since then, we kind of had a period where we didn't really talk to each other. In recent years, we've connected and we have our, twice a year long reef walks.
Yes. We rekindle and talk work, family.
Yep.
Life.
Yeah, which is always nice. We sort of do it as the sun's going down. So we always end up in the dark walking through Colo. If anyone is on the northern beaches, Longreef Headland has a beautiful sort of loop where you go up to the top, see the ocean and loop around. And we normally get through a drink or two and have a good chat.
Sometimes spot a few whales.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. And I normally twist Nick's arm to come on this show. And that's what happened. I didn't have to twist too hard. I just took a bit of time to get him back on, more on my part. So we're very grateful to have you here, Nick. Okay, great. So I think before we get into things, Nick, we educate our audience a lot on being or critically analysing the information that they hear both online and offline. Because obviously, there's lots of people with lots of letters behind their name, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily speaking to the latest evidence. So I think it'd be good for our audience if you could give everyone a little bit of background knowledge about what you do day to day, like in your research and at the clinic at Sydney University.
Well, I guess going back many, many years, I did do quite a few years at University of Management to really understand the ins and outs of how our body works when we lose weight. Because I'd worked in the corporate world and I'd seen the frustrations on people's faces. There was no challenge in getting people to lose weight. Everyone was pretty successful at doing that. But when we followed them up at one particular point in time, and usually within 12 months, sadly, they'd all gone back to the start point. And they often put on what I refer to as the plus GST. They hadn't just gone back to their start point or their set weight. They'd regained that weight that they'd lost and they put on an extra 1 or 2 kilos. So that drove me back into university and research. And as I mentioned, my doctorate. And now I've been working at the University of Sydney and Royal Prince Alfred Hospital for 20 years.
Yeah, wow.
So
We're getting old, Nick.
we are. Time goes quick.
I didn't even realize it was that long. Yeah.
And now, day to day, I work in the Department of Endocrinology. We run a very large clinical trials unit. And we help people that are struggling with their weight or struggling with metabolic disease, for example, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, etc. And we study everything from first-line therapy, being lifestyle intervention, okay, providing people with evidence-based lifestyle intervention, how they should lead their lives in terms of what they should be putting into their body, how to move and move regularly, and how to get good sleep health and good sleep hygiene. But then we test everything else through the spectrum. So we will get into some of this later on. And what I mean by that is we're also prescribing medications, and we're also testing new devices and right through to surgery. So what our overall mission or goal is to paint a better picture of what long-term weight management looks like, and to understand what's happening within a person's body when we put them on different weight loss treatments. Because if you're, you've had that sort of lifelong story or story yourself where you've tried to lose weight, you'll know that it's very hard to keep it off. And often we're told that we just didn't succeed because of a lack of willpower. But it's very important to iterate, and I'll continue to highlight this throughout the show, that couldn't be further from the truth. The reason we keep failing is not due to a lack of willpower. It's due to our biology.
Great. And so, yeah, this is great. This is perfect. The thing is that hearing from Nick here is everything we're about to go into today over the next 40 minutes or so. Essentially, Nick is researching at the coalface. So there's lots of programs out there which might say they're, based on the evidence, but this is what Nick does day in, day out. And essentially then you're taking the research and basically helping people apply that in their day-to-day lives.
And commercializing it beyond the four walls of our clinical environment.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the other thing is many clinicians and academics are very good at doing research, but unfortunately, most of that gets stuck in the clinic or it gets stuck in an academic publication. So another large part of what our group does and what I do is commercialize that research. And one of the programs we will talk about today, Interval Weight Loss, is one such example.
Sure.
It's something that's been trialled and tested in a clinical environment with participants and translated to the general public so that we can get that information to them, get that evidence-based information to them, and disrupt really an industry that's often doing more harm than good.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, let's get into some of that stuff. So essentially, yeah, Nick has the research to back him up. Of course, we wouldn't bring on someone that we didn't believe in and didn't have that. So let's get stuck in, Nick. So we obviously have a lot of members who have different goals. Like some people do want to lose weight. Some don't necessarily want to lose weight, but want to know how to eat well just for healthy aging, how to have energy, how to make sure they maintain their muscle mass. And then we have some people who aren't sure if they should lose weight. Like, is there a benefit to their health if they do? So where's a good starting point, I suppose, to go from here? So knowing that about our members.
Well, the number one goal for every one of us, regardless of our weight, should be health. We've got to forget the number on the scales. And this is the number one thing that we drive into our community of members and our patients that attend our clinic. We've got to start focusing on things aside from weight. This is what the dieting industry have led us to believe and want us to focus on, because it's all weight driven. Okay, they prescribe a neat, cutely packaged program prescribing calorie reduction. You lose weight over a short period of time, and then eventually the old habits come back in, your body fights the weight loss and you go back to where you started. But we know that the best results for weight actually come when you do focus on health, because weight loss is then a side effect of that. So coming back to your question, for everyone, we should be focusing on health. We should be knowing what to put into our body for good health. Okay, when it comes to diet, obviously exercise and sleep.
Great. So let's dig into that then. So yeah, we've got carbohydrates, we've got proteins, we've got fiber, we've got fats. How should our members look at, what are some good frameworks or ways to approach just eating healthy? What does that mean?
Well, the first thing we need to do is throw out this whole calories in versus calories out and counting calories and obsessively worrying about calories, because not all calories are equal. And our body is marvelous at shutting down when we deprive it of calories. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to sort of eliminate and I guess unlearn.
Yeah, which is because, a lot of the common messaging with a lot of, diet and nutrition guidelines is all about calories and tracking your calories.
And that's right. But we know that it's far simpler than that. Now, we can track calories, but often it becomes quite a task. And eventually we give up on it and then we go back to our old habits. Now, what we've found is far simpler, and an incidental way of getting an improvement in calorie intake throughout the day is retraining our brain back to nature's treats, back to a diet that's largely based on wholesome, natural food or food naturally found in the environment. And when it comes to carbs and protein and fat, I mean, we're all fixating on protein at the moment.
Yeah, it is. The stickers on all the food, how much protein.
It's even on water.
Yeah, protein, water. Yeah.
You'll buy a dairy product high in protein when dairy products are already high in protein. It's madness.
Yeah, it's having its moment.
We already get enough protein in our diet. What we need to be doing is focusing on one simple message, and that is balancing every meal. Okay, and we need to be, what I mean by that is making sure that every meal has a serve of whole grain carbohydrate, a serve of protein, and a serve of healthy fat. So for example, we wake up in the morning, which should be the biggest meal of the day, which I'll get to in a second. Now, how would you balance that? Your whole grain carb might be your oats. Now, your protein source might be the dairy, the milk, the yogurt that you're adding to it. And your healthy fat could be some nuts and seeds, and then you can coat that with a nature's treat like some berries, honey, for example, for your sweetness. And that's a simple message that we know works well and also is important because it's addressing that very thing we talked about, eating for health. So rather than fixating on protein, carbs, fat, all you need to be doing is worrying about making sure every meal's balanced, because carbs are not the issue. They're only the issue when we have the white, refined, processed carbohydrate foods all the time.
Got it.
Because they're the ones that don't fill you up. They're very low in fiber. They're very low in nutrients, vitamins and minerals. They leave us feeling hungry not long afterwards. So don't fixate on the macronutrient, particularly protein. Fixate on the balance at each meal and fixate on actually including carbohydrates. They're very good for our gut health, and the data and the research shows that they're very good for managing our weight. Okay.
Which, a lot of this is counter to things. Carbs are the enemy.
That's right.
That people have been brought up on throughout the years. And
ever since the 1970s, really, since the Atkins diet movement came out, all we've been talking about is different derivatives of that. Keto, protein, high protein, but really carbs have been the scapegoat. They've been demonized when they are the very food we should be incorporating into our diet. But remember, we need to be getting it from whole grain carbs.
Got it. Yep.
Now, the other thing I just want to highlight while we're on this topic is we also need to be eating from big to small. This is another way of addressing eating for health and working with our circadian rhythm. But most of us actually eat from small to big.
Yeah, we love getting home and having the big meal.
We wake up, we might run out the door with a kid under each arm, grab a coffee, and then we don't start eating till lunchtime, and then the food starts to ramp up in the afternoon, and dinner becomes the biggest meal of the day.
Yeah,
but again,
or dessert.
But again, I'm going to bring it back to the research, because this is what I do. Remember, I'm working in a clinical environment, studying the effects within our body on a day-to-day basis. we burn the calories 2.5 times more efficiently. 2.5 times more efficiently in the morning versus the evening.
Yeah, wow.
So we need to load up the morning and we need to taper off throughout the day and focus on a smaller portion size at the end of the day. So if anything, we've got it the wrong way around and we need to rethink the way we eat throughout the course of the day. Now that change does not happen overnight. If you've been eating from small to big, you're not all of a sudden going to wake up hungry.
Yeah.
You've got to slowly make these changes, and it might take 2 to 3 months for that appetite change to kick in the gear where you start to wake up feeling hungrier, looking forward to breakfast and making that the biggest meal of your day. But that's what you need to work towards. So balancing the meals, carbs, protein and fat. And eating from big to small. Now doing that will also see an incidental decrease in your calorie intake by about 500 per day.
500 calories per day,
without even counting calories. But it also means we need to be retraining our brain. So we've got to start moving towards nature's treats, because most of us are struggling with emotional and comfort eating. If you think about it, we're stressed, we're leading busy lives, work lives, family lives, and it's hard juggling that. We get home at the end of the day, the first thing we reach for might be the wine and the cheese. Instead of having one Tim Tam after dinner, we have the whole packet.
Now, the double Tim Tams?
Yes. But this is something we can overcome, and we can retrain our brain back to nature's treats. And it's a big part of this evidence-based program, interval weight loss, which we'll get into. So I guess move away from calories, move away from fixating on a specific macronutrient. It's far simpler than that. It's far more enjoyable than that. We need to bring the food enjoyment back to food.
Yeah. And I think one of the things is, like, sometimes it can sound too simple, right? And this is similar to exercise. Is sometimes the advice can be like, well, that just sounds too easy. It's not a fad, but this is what the evidence is showing, right?
Definitely. We've just got caught up in this notion of it's got to be, I guess, attached to something like the carbs or the dairy. But it is far simpler than that. We need to wind it back, take a few steps back and focus on what the science is showing and listen to healthcare professionals that actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, great. On the note of big meal at the end of the day, and you were saying it might take a few months to feel hungry. Is that because if you're having a big meal at the end of the day, you're waking up like you just had a big meal, so you don't need
food? Yeah, you wake up and you're still satiated from the night before. So what do? You slowly reduce the quantity of food in the evening time. And what you do is you start to increase the volume of food in the morning. So at the moment, you're going to wake up and you're not hungry. So the first thing you got to do is have a small snack in the morning time, okay? It doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, but you've got to start working on adding some breakfast to your day. And then adding snacks, making sure you're eating frequently, because that also prevents you overeating at the next main meal. Okay, we've got to prevent that surge in ghrelin levels, the hunger hormone acting on the brain, telling you to go and reach for food. So it's better to slowly make these changes, slowly incorporate some breakfast, taper off in terms of portion size at the end of the day. Then over time, you'll start to wake up hungrier. You'll start to be ravenous in the morning and wake up very hungry, and you'll start to find that becomes the biggest meal of the day. And remember, why? We're burning the calories 2.5 times more efficient. It's so much better for weight management.
So with that switch, having the balanced plate, switch in bigger meal to the start of the day, smaller meal to the end of the day, not only is there a 500 calorie reduction, but you're also, of the calories that you're having, you're burning them quicker.
That's right.
So, yeah.
But we're also retraining our brain, remember. We can't keep eating a diet that's largely made up of processed and packaged foods. So most of us are reaching for those foods on a daily basis, okay? We're going to the supermarket. They're in front of us everywhere we go as we ponder those aisles. We load up the trolley and they become an everyday occurrence. And this includes the bars and the shakes and all of these different products. They've got to become the once to twice a week treats. Okay. Because these foods are often low in fiber, low in nutrition and high in calories, and they don't fill us up for long periods of time. Now, yeah, of course, we still want to satisfy that high we're looking for and enjoy the modern day environment for what it is. And we don't teach people to cut out processed and fast food altogether because it's to be enjoyed. But it's to be enjoyed as a once to twice a week maximum, not an everyday occurrence, which is what it's currently
the
at.
creep sort of is set in.
And
right?
those foods make us feel good while we're eating them, okay? They release the serotonin and the feel-good chemicals. We walk past that fast food chain or the bakery the next day, dopamine is released, the learning chemical telling you to go back for more because it remembers how good it tasted last time.
Yeah.
But the minute you stop eating that food, you feel guilty.
Yeah, and you don't feel the goodness is short term, right?
And you don't feel full.
Yeah.
Okay, you're ravenous not long afterwards. But you can get that same high from nature's treats.
Yeah. What are some nature's treats like the
Think of things that naturally occur in the environment. Your berries, your papaya, your nuts and your seeds, your avocados, anything that's naturally high in sugar, naturally high in fat, also releases all those feel-good chemicals in the brain and satisfies that high you're looking for. But guess what? You feel great afterwards.
Yeah.
And you also feel full afterwards. And then again, just like as if you're strengthening your muscle, you have to keep doing it gradually over time. With retraining the brain, you keep making those right decisions, saying no to the processed and fast foods most of the time and saying yes to the nature's treats most of the time. And then by default, that starts becoming the easier choice.
Yeah. And I think seeing with kids, how much kids at a young age are excited by nature's treats. Yes. So strawberries, blueberries, avocado, as you said, like they just love that stuff naturally and they're excited to have it. It's kind of like over time, as you grow up and are exposed to these other things, you lose that a bit. So it's just bringing that brain back around to saying, hey, these things taste good, but they're also good for you.
And that's what we evolved to seek out. If you go back to our time as hunter-gatherers, we have our ancestors to thank. They used to seek these foods that gave us best bang for our buck, okay? And that high that we were looking for. So these are nature's treats, and these are the ones we've got to retrain our brain back towards. And if you can do that, it's another contributing in your calorie intake across the course of the day. So stop fixating on calories.
Great. Okay, I think that gives a really good sort of holistic view of eating for good health. Now, I think it'd be good now to go into some stuff specifically around weight loss. So we do have members, as I mentioned, that are interested in losing weight. So first of all, why does weight loss matter? For those that it's a goal for, or for those health might benefit from it? Like what's the link between, let's say, obesity and chronic disease? Or why is losing some weight, what are potential reasons why losing weight is good?
Yeah, it's an important point to address, because with just a small but clinically significant amount of weight loss, and what I'm talking about here is just 3 kilos or 5% of weight loss that you maintain, you will see a significant reduction in your risk of metabolic disease. So developing type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular or heart disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or if you already have those conditions, it can reverse them. Okay, so there are a lot of benefits to your health from a small but clinically significant amount of weight loss. But this doesn't mean that we need to be working towards unrealistic weight loss goals. Again, what the dieting industry will often prescribe. Because you will get the same improvement, again, at just a small but clinically significant amount of weight loss. Now, the other important point to note is that, as you guys know, as experts in the space, there are a lot of benefits independent of weight loss through exercise alone, okay? So it's not just about diet, it's also about exercise, and it's also about sleep health. A lot of patients come to me and say, should I be focusing on, mainly diet to lose weight? Well, no, you need to be focusing on equally contributing factors in terms of diet, exercise, and sleep. Yeah, they all play a vital role.
A good point, isn't it? Because we know that exercise on its own isn't a great evidence-based tool for managing weight loss, but in combination with these things you're saying, it's a very important part.
But it is from a maintenance point of view as well.
Ah, got it.
Okay? So what we want to be doing when we lose weight is losing it predominantly from fat stores. We want to hold on to our muscle mass stores. And we know that when we prescribe a lifestyle program that encompasses diet, exercise, and sleep health, the exercise component preserves our metabolic rate. It preserves our muscle mass. so that we're losing it predominantly from fat stores as opposed to fat and muscle stores. Because as you know, if you've got two people at the same weight, 80 kilos, they've both lost 10 kilos, but one's done it through diet and exercise. The person at the 80 that's lost it through diet and exercise, they're going to have a much better chance at keeping it off because they're being able to preserve their metabolic rate and their muscle mass will be higher.
Great. And on the metabolic health side of things, we have some members who are happy with their weight, yeah, and their focus, or at least happy on their, let's say, happy with their weight in the sense that they're not concerned aesthetics from an aesthetics point of view. They do want to make sure they're healthy, but they feel like they're healthy, like they're exercising. But with the crude measure of a BMI, they might be on the higher end of that.
Yes.
How do we approach that? Like the subcutaneous fat versus visceral fat, like that sort of conversation. And I've heard you talk about a sumo wrestler, analogy or story before.
Yeah, they're a fascinating case study, aren't they? Because they can be, 120 to 200 kilos. But when we take bloods off a sumo wrestler who is physically active, performing strenuous amounts of activity every single day, they're metabolically healthy. Because all of their fat is subcutaneous. And a very small component of it is visceral fat, or the dangerous fat that lies around the organs, preventing the organs doing their job. So this comes back to the point that exercise is a vital part of the puzzle. Even if it doesn't give you much weight loss by itself, it's still going to be very good at holding onto your muscle mass stores and giving you benefits independent of weight loss, particularly around mental health, energy levels, and setting you up for lifelong success. And coming back to your earlier question about, I guess, why weight still matters, because often we are at a weight that's slightly above what we should be. We all have this inner silhouette, and sometimes it is just that, 3 kilos or 5 kilos that we need to lose and keep off lifelong to reverse or completely eliminate that chance of developing the type 2 diabetes or the heart disease. But again, it's focusing on health, because weight loss comes as a side effect. So when you set your goal for weight this year, set it on something that's focused maybe on your family or something outside of that number on the scales, because if you do that, you're more likely to succeed long term. The weight problem itself is very challenging. Now, I highlighted this initially, and many members, patients, whoever we're consulting with, often believe that they just didn't stick to it for long enough. They've been brainwashed to think that they just lack discipline, but it is complete BS. This is just the dieting industry. It's big name celebrities, it's social media sensations pushing their diets onto large followings. It's something I'm really passionate about, particularly long-term results. I don't care what weight loss you get in 3 months or 6 months. I care where you're at 5 years down the track. Because what happens when you lose weight is your body goes into shutdown mode. Now, again, this is due to our ancestors. We have our ancestors to thank for this. If we wind back the clock tens of thousands of years ago, food was not available on every corner of every block. We would often go long periods of time without food. When it was then available, we would gorge and binge and store those calories. Our body learnt to shut down during times of deprivation to hold on to its fat stores. And why? That was in order to procreate and survive. Now, if you fast forward the clock to the modern day environment where food is everywhere, we have a hard time saying no to it. We don't move, we drive everywhere from A to B. We're on our devices all night, which keep us awake and also have an effect on our sleep. Well, what happens? We see weight creep. Now, weight creep refers to the 0.5 or 1 kilo of weight increase every year.
Okay.
The general population's experience.
Is that an average or, across? Yep.
And that's scary, because you look in the mirror after 5 to 10 years of that period of time, particularly as we transition to a change in life, say after school, after university, start having family, taking on more seniority at work, more responsibility, that weight creep is evident. Now that quickly equates to 5 to 10 kilos. We then look in the mirror particularly women are very good at this. They put up their hand and acknowledge they've got a problem, but then they're buying into fads and they're not following evidence-based information, and then they end up driving up their weight over time. They would have been better off doing nothing.
Yeah, wow.
Because what happens is, after you lose just that small but clinically significant amount of weight, so 3 kilos, your body starts shutting down. Remember, this is our ancestors we have to thank. Our metabolic rate's going down, so we burn less calories at rest. Our appetite hormones are changing.
And that's a body's reaction to the weight loss.
That's right. It sees it as a stress.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And there are 8 well-researched physiological responses that take place when we start losing weight. It's your body going into shutdown mode. Your adrenal glands start pumping out more cortisol. Your thyroid gland is suppressed, which is your gatekeeper to your metabolism, so it stops working efficiently. Basically, all of these reactions take place, so you burn less calories at rest, so you go back to your start point. But then the body's so clever. You know what it does? It doesn't just go back to the start point. It puts on that plus GST because it knows that that next bout of starvation is just around the corner. So it has to prepare for it. So it says, well, next time it comes around, I'm going to be a little bit better equipped. I'm going to have a little bit of extra fat. And that's why you don't just regain the weight you lost, you regain the plus GST.
Yeah.
And what happens is, you end up driving up your weight over time. So you're not just putting on the 0.5 to 1 kilo, the weight creep.
Yeah.
You might be putting on the 1.5 to 2 kilos.
So the 10%. Actually, I might just explain for our non-Australian audience the GST.
Yes.
Yeah, goods and services tax introduced many years ago. I forget by who.
Our friend, Mr. Howard, was it?
Howard, was it? John Howard, yeah. Ex-Prime Minister of Australia. Essentially, it's a tax on goods and services. In Australia, it's 10%.
It's 10%.
And I think hearing about this GST add-on that Nick talks about is quite timely. We've had a lot of stuff about the recent budget. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's what that is for everyone who...
And that's I guess what we're up against. Our body's shutting down. It's going back to its start point every single time. And again, I don't care about the anecdotal success stories that people share and talk about on the latest and greatest diet. The keto, the intermittent fasting is still very popular, high protein approach. When I follow you up down the track, unfortunately, less than 4.2% of you have kept that weight off long term.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing about it, because your body is going into shutdown mode. It's fighting it. It's going to take it back to the start point at some point in time. Even if you've managed to, I guess, apply healthier habits.
Interesting. And so with this follow-up, like down the track or talking about these other diets, so you're making the point, I think this is an important point, that there will be people in our audience that have tried other things and it has worked. And for some people, it will have worked and stuck.
Yes.
But what we're talking about, what the evidence shows, these randomized controlled trials that look at large populations of people, what actually works with enough sample size to confidently say this is a program you can follow.
Yes.
It's kind of like the person that has had a chronically sore back for 12 months and they go and get a hot rock massage and someone walks on their back and it fixes their back.
Yes.
And so they're like, that thing is the only thing to fix all back pain. And that works for them, and there can be many reasons why it might have worked, but there's no evidence to support basically suggesting and recommending that to other people. So please take that, like Nick's not saying if you've, done the interval weight loss or if you've done another, program that it hasn't worked for you. But what the evidence shows is that a lot of these programs just don't work over large populations.
That's right. And when it has worked for you, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, the intermittent fasting approach or the high protein approach or whatever it might be that catalyst for you to get long-term change and success. But yes, again, when we come back to the evidence and the science, unfortunately, fewer than 5% are succeeding long-term because our body's going into shutdown mode. It's fighting the weight loss and taking you back to your start point. So that's what we're up against. That's the landscape. We've also got that environment where it's very hard to say no to our favorite foods. We're driving everywhere from A to B. We're addicted to devices which suppress melatonin production, telling our brain it's daytime instead of nighttime when we should be going to sleep. When you're sleep deprived, you wake up feeling hungrier. If I took bloods off you, your ghrelin levels would be surging. What does that mean? You're more likely to overeat across the course of the day after the sleep, night of sleep deprivation. So that's why sleep's also vital and an important part of the puzzle. And then that environment's contributing to the weight creep. Okay, so there's sort of two things going on here. We react to the problem through drastic measures, and then we have our body fighting that weight loss and taking us back to our start point. And this is why, I guess, weight loss programs, diets have really just contributed to the problem that they proclaim to solve, and why we continually see a new diet on the shelves every day of the week. If they work, we wouldn't see a new diet appearing.
Yeah, everyone would be doing the thing that works. And so, and some people, like I've heard you talk.
But everything
before.
works short term.
Yeah, and so there's some people doing the same diet 6 times a year.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, like so the same thing that didn't work and just repeating it.
And again, that program or that diet wants you to fail, because if you go back, you're buying in to that program time and time again. And yes, we've done some surveys in this space where people, unfortunately, following the same diets up to 5 times a year. Sadly, some people have been dieting for more than 30 years.
Yeah.
And they've followed more than 60 diets by the age of 45. So again, they just keep thinking they've failed due to a lack of willpower. They didn't stick to it for long enough, so they go back and try again. And yes, they'll get results. They'll get results, but they're short-term results. You continue to do that, your body gets smarter and smarter at shutting down, and it gets harder and harder to lose weight. This is why during midlife, and as you get and then transition through midlife, it becomes even harder to lose weight, because your metabolism has actually slowed down, okay? Not just through things like sarcopenia, but actually the damage that you've done through calorie restriction and dieting.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a good point. So there are people that would have tried many diets, and so in some ways their body has been affected by that. But there's still a way forward.
Definitely.
Right?
It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah. And maybe there's a good point to move into, like, so yeah, maybe if I'll sort of, so there's many diets out there that basically based on the evidence don't work. They might work short term, but long term, when you follow them up in the research, they're not only back at their original weight, but they're back at their original weight plus 10% or more.
Yes.
Yep. So we also know that there are things with the diet, or actually, have you talked about the speed of losing weight yet? I'm not sure.
No.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we know that these diets that have failed people, so what do they do? Like, what is the fix to the set point? And sorry, the point I was going to make was the idea of this set point, that, you know, thanking our ancestors, their body's defending this set point.
Yes.
And so it's wanting to bring us back to that plus a little bit more.
Yes.
How do we get around that?
Yeah, it's like, I guess, think of it as a set body weight, and it can be a bit of a range within a few kilos, and it's programmed during the early years of our life. That's the weight you remember being at for a long period of time in your adult years. So for some people, it might be 140 kilos. For other people, it might be 60 kilos. But it's sort of the weight you always bounce back to after a period of deprivation, for example. But unfortunately, remember, it's creeping up.
Yeah. Yep.
Each year. It's one thing to research what happens within a person's body when they lose weight. So that's one thing we do. We subject or put our patients and participants through a range of different tests so we can actually see what's happening within their body when they lose weight. So measuring their metabolic rate, taking bloods and measuring their appetite hormones, checking what's happening within their brain. But it's also very important to research solutions to overcome this barrier. Okay, so this is an evolutionary problem. I've highlighted this several times. That's something we need to drum in. And to overcome that, we need an evolutionary solution. Okay, we've got to work with our biology, not against it. Now, what we've found is that when we get people to lose weight in small increments or small intervals every second month, we can work with our biology and we prevent the body's usual response to weight loss. Now, what I mean by that is, or what it visually looks like, is a step down pyramid. So you lose weight and you go across, you maintain. You lose weight and then you maintain. You lose weight and you maintain. And you're doing this in intervals of 1 month blocks, and you're only losing a couple of kilos in each 1 month block. Now, why 2 kilos? because firstly, that is a manageable amount of weight that most people can lose. It's about 0.5 kilos of weight each week. And secondly, because we've got to prevent the body's usual response to weight loss. We know that once a person loses about 3 kilos or 5% of their body weight, it starts going into shutdown mode. Their metabolism starts decreasing, their appetite hormones start changing and telling you to eat more. Your adrenal glands start pumping out more cortisol, all those things I was talking about. Yes. We've got to keep that switched off. And this is why we get a person to lose a small but manageable amount of weight across the course of the month. And then they have to maintain that weight during the next month. They're not allowed to continue on. This is the hardest part.
Yeah, I'm impatient, Nick. Once I start losing, I want to go fast.
Definitely.
Like, is this something that comes up?
Continuous calorie restriction does not work. Because it initiates the physiological responses, the body's protection mechanisms. Whereas if you impose these maintenance breaks every second month, you then allow your body to readjust or reset and reprogram its new set weight. And then you go on and lose weight again. And then you reprogram and readjust and reset, and then you go on and lose weight. The randomized controlled trials show that you lose approximately 11 kilos, so roughly 2 kilos every second month across the course of the year. And as you alluded to earlier, the University of Wollongong did an independent study this year, and it showed that this interval weight loss approach, the interval weight loss program, works long-term, because when a person hits their goal weight, they do not regain or regress back to where they started.
That's sort of you.
Instead, they had this slow, gradual response, and then they flatline at their goal weight. And that's why it's now the #1 program for sustainable weight loss, long-term weight loss, because you're not fighting your biology.
And is it okay for us to reference, just for context, some of the other or diet plans that were in that study?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So,
because a lot of people may be on them, and this isn't saying that they're not good, but this is just to show you the evidence-based approach versus those.
Well, the interesting thing is, in 2026, there were 228 diet or weight loss programs in Australia alone.
Of the ones that people knew about,
That's right. That's not including every program globally. That's just in Australia specifically. That is a ridiculous amount of programs. Now, many of those programs come and go as quick as we know, right? They just don't last. They're fads. And of those 228 programs, very, very few have clinical evidence. Okay, they're making big, bold marketing claims with no evidence to back up their program. And of the few that do, obviously they were part of this analysis. And there are programs that have evidence, like Weight Watchers, like Jenny Craig, but they don't have the long-term results. So when you look at the comparison results, IWL ranked higher than Weight Watchers, it ranked higher than the CSIRO diet, it ranked higher than Noom, it ranked higher than Jenny Craig, all of those other few programs that actually have evidence. The rest of them, we shouldn't be going anywhere near.
Yeah, okay. Great. I think, from the perspective for our members, I think it's clear that in order to lose weight, if that is a goal, or even to maintain weight, like, it's not a quick fix.
No.
And there is the temptation to go for the thing like cutting out sugar, or going on a carrot diet, or cutting out carbs, or whatever it may be. There's temptation to do that because people want stuff now. The delayed gratification is something that obviously is harder to do.
Yes.
But the evidence has shown, from what you're saying, that you have to take that approach. Like, you have to take the evidence-based approach. You have to be patient. You have to be prepared to lose some weight, then go in a period of maintenance, which I imagine would be hard, because you're just starting to lose weight and get momentum, and then you're being told, hey, pump the brakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest challenge that people have. They get excited by the number on the scales going down.
Yeah.
And they want to continue on with those efforts. But our education continues to reinforce that if you do that, it's going to go into shutdown mode. And if you've been on a weight loss program in the past, you will know that you will slowly regain back to where you started.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I think, like, we can loop back to some more aspects of the interval weight loss towards the end, but I think it'd be good now to talk about how the interval weight loss program and other programs are evidence of lifestyle modification programs, which is one tool to help with weight loss.
And I just want to emphasize that lifestyle, remember, is the 3 pillars.
Yes, not just food.
No,
Yep.
it's diet, it's food, what you're putting into your body, it's also exercise, and it's also sleep health. They are the 3 pillars that we must be addressing.
Yeah, good point. And so that's one tool. Those 3 things together is the important thing. They're not things in isolation. You can't really just do one and hope for the weight loss. But there are other tools. The surgery, and I suppose very topical at the moment are the weight loss medications, the GLP-1s, Ozempic, things like that.
Yes.
I would love to hear the latest on what's the research showing. How successful are they? How successful are they short and long term? Should you be doing them with other things? Whatever you've got for us that's coming, because I understand you're researching this in your clinic.
Definitely. We research everything. Remember, we're investigating everything from lifestyle intervention, first-line therapy, through to bariatric surgery. So pharmaceutical medicines fall in the middle. And it's particularly relevant at the moment because every pharmaceutical company has a drug in development. To test its efficacy, it needs to go to reputable environments to run gold standard clinical trials, and they do that across the globe. So we are at the forefront of medical research, and it's something that everyone wants their hands on at the moment. It's such an interesting landscape because if you think about it, not that long ago, everyone just wanted the latest and greatest diet, right? But we've sort of moved on from diets, and now everyone just wants the latest and greatest pill, weight loss drug. And there's currently 2 approved in Australia at the moment. But
what are those?
This is for weight loss.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it can be quite confusing because some drugs are approved for the management of type 2 diabetes.
Got it. Okay.
But there are 2 companies at the moment that also have an indication for weight loss.
Okay.
Now, over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a plethora of different drugs getting approved, which is going to make affordability more applicable. It'll drive down price, access, all of these things that are quite challenging at the moment. But the interesting thing is that obviously we're running gold standard randomized controlled trials. So what that means is people aren't just getting access to drug, they're getting access to the wraparound support, okay, the healthcare professionals as well. But in the real world, often people are getting a script and often getting it online and sometimes not even the real, or it's a compounded medication, which is even more concerning, but they're not doing it with the wraparound support. Okay, so they're continuing with their unhealthy habits, but because the drug's making them feel full all the time, they're eating 1 or 2 bites of the burger or whatever it might be instead of the whole meal. Okay, so what that means is over the course of the day, they significantly reduce their calorie intake, and yes, they get a lot of weight loss. Now, what does the data show? Okay, irrespective of the drug we look at, you might get anywhere between sort of 15 to 25% over the course of a year of weight loss.
Which
is
is
an enormous amount.
Huge.
Because it's the same amount as bariatric surgery.
Yeah. Especially for someone that might have struggled with weight for 20, 30, 40 years.
And the way it works is...
Yeah, explain to us.
So I guess taking that back, every day we wake up, we have this clever wiring system acting between organs in our body, like our stomach and our gastrointestinal tract, our pancreas, that produce hormones that act on our brain, a very clever part of the brain called the hypothalamus, telling us when and when we shouldn't eat. Now, some of those hormones are produced to tell us to initiate food consumption, like ghrelin. So if you haven't eaten for a long period of time, you start getting hunger pangs and your stomach's gurgling, and it starts acting on your brain, ghrelin, telling you to go and reach for food.
It's a pretty cool name.
Ghrelin.
I like
Ghrelin.
it. Yeah.
But then when you start eating, other hormones are produced, or appetite hormones are produced, telling you to terminate food consumption, to put down the fork so that you don't overeat. Now, some of those hormones like GLP-1, CCK, there are a wide range of peripheral and centrally produced hormones that control this appetite regulation across the course of the day. This is what the drugs are basing their development on, okay? So for instance, a GLP-1 medication is meaning that you're putting more of that appetite suppressant in your body, which means that you feel fuller for longer and you feel fuller at the sight of food or after small quantities of food, okay? And it means that over the course of the day, you're going to eat far less volumes of food, okay?
So it's sort of switching off the food noise.
It's
Or
switching off the
dampening
food
it.
noise.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, even when people get these huge amounts of weight, 2/3 of people are coming off drug within the first year for a plethora of different reasons. One is side effects. There are huge gastrointestinal side effects, particularly in the first month as you're starting to tolerate the drug. What I mean by that is nausea, vomiting, for example. But they come off for other reasons too, like affordability and accessibility. But the other scary thing is that 2/3 of people have regained the weight within the first year when they come off the medication, okay? So like any medication, it works while you're taking it, okay? But when you come off it, your biology is no longer switched off. You start to feel hungry again. And if you haven't made the changes to your lifestyle and healthy habits, you're going to end up back where you started. The data is now convincing in that field.
Okay.
And the randomized controlled trials show that you get weight loss followed by weight regain as soon as you've come off it. So it's not addressing the long-term problem that we're all up against.
Cool. And so if someone were to get access to it and finances weren't an issue because it was funded or they had the money, if they're on that and they're doing the lifestyle medication, lifestyle modification, it'd be good if lifestyle programs were medication.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not
That's
that
how we
easy.
have to think about it.
So if they're doing those two together,
You have a much better success rate.
uh-huh.
That's because that's what we do in gold standard randomized controlled trials, state-of-the-art facilities like the one I work in at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. They're not just prescribed drugs, they're prescribed evidence-based information, evidence-based lifestyle programs like interval weight loss, so that you make the necessary changes to your diet, exercise and sleep health to set yourself up for long-term success after you come off the drug.
Yeah. And on that point, so is the plan, like in these clinical trials, and I suppose it depends on the clinical trial, because some of them will want to take people off because part of the trial. Yes. Are there people, like, what's the guideline for people? Are they staying on it for a year and then transitioning? Are they staying on the medication long term?
Every trial does differ. And
okay.
You know, they're depending on what sort of indication they're getting approved for. But if it's a cardiovascular outcome trial, often they can go for anywhere between 5 to 7 years because you have to hit a certain amount of events, which means people are often taking drug or placebo for that amount of time.
Yep.
But again, once people come off the drug, unfortunately, they're regaining. The best chance of having long-term success is to do it in conjunction with the evidence-based lifestyle program, because you've got to make the changes to your diet as well. If you just take the drug and continue to eat a poor diet, but less of it, again, once you eliminate the drug, you're going back to your old healthy ways and you are doomed for failure.
Okay. So if you take the drug and you do the lifestyle medication, when you come off the drug, the evidence is showing there's more success with maintaining the weight that you've got to.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like any drug, really, it's going to come down to this question of how long do we actually take it? Because if you've got a problem of, say, hypertension or lipids, where you've got to take a statin to lower your blood lipids, cholesterol level, really you're on it lifelong, aren't you? Because after you come off it,
it's
unfortunate. It goes back to where it started.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an evolving piece, but I think the most important take-home message here is that, yes, you're probably going to get weight loss while you're on it, and you're going to get a large amount of weight loss. It's going to make you feel full all the time. You're going to get small quantities of food in across the course of the day. But when I take the drug away, or you go off the drug, you're going to regain the weight. So what do you need to do in conjunction with it? Follow the evidence-based lifestyle intervention to set yourself up for every possible chance of lifelong and long-term success.
Great. Okay, I think that's clear. Now, I'll have a look here. Let's have a look at our notes, and I want to have a look at the questions also. Oh, what? Yeah, let me just have a look.
Time
here.
goes quick.
Yeah, it's almost an hour. Sorry,
for hours. I get too passionate about it.
Let me have a quick look at some of the questions here. Yeah. Okay. Great. So, okay. Yep. Okay, let's start with this top question. So in regards to interval weight loss, like how do you start and stop the loss monthly? Sounds complicated.
Yes.
That's a good question, I think. Like if you started, how do you stop it? Do you
Yes.
go back to what you were doing or
Yeah, look, I mean, the program itself equips you with those tools and that practical information so you can apply it in real life. But in a nutshell, you're still applying the same habits, okay? You're still applying the big to small, balancing the meals, retraining your brain.
Yep.
But during the weight maintenance months, we allow you a bit more freedom. So you don't have to be as restrictive, for instance, with your processed and fast food intake.
Yep.
Around the exercise, maybe you're not focusing on as much higher intensity, you're tapering down the volume and intensity there as well. So there's small alterations to ensure that you do start maintaining. And the other key part is we're monitoring the weight weekly just to keep an eye on the trend over time because it's not always picture perfect.
Yeah. Okay, great. What does the evidence, so this is from Sue, what does the evidence say about time restricted eating? So time restricted eating,
look,
your 5s and 2s and
unfortunately, it's still a continuous calorie restriction, right? And the advocates behind intermittent fasting 5-2, the 16-8, have basically created a cute, neatly packaged program of crafting out calories from the day, taking them away. So if you only eat between this period, you're going to probably eat less calories. But unfortunately, the continuous calorie restriction and the continuous weight loss will still result in weight loss followed by weight regain. The randomized controlled trials show that. You don't get better results on intermittent fasting versus keto versus whatever other diet you will follow. They're all the same U or V-shaped response.
Yep.
But there's one benefit or take-home message we can be taking from intermittent fasting is that we don't need to be eating all night, every night. Okay, remember this is the period of day where we should taper off the volume, eat less food. So if you set yourself a curfew, maybe that will work for you because that'll stop you eating late into the night, particularly when it comes to comfort and emotional eating.
Okay, great advice. Okay, let's have a look here. You still got time, Nick?
Yeah, let's
Couple
fire
more.
away.
Okay. Okay, the one here, any thoughts about meal replacement shakes to reduce weight initially? My husband has slowly lost weight this way in the last month.
The biggest message here, I think you've got to think, what are you going to do when you transition? Okay, this is why interval weight loss is prescribing whole food, real food.
Yep.
Teaching you the basics around food and getting you in the kitchen. Doesn't mean we need to be cooking every meal. No one has time for that. But if you're having meal replacements all the time, at one point you're going to transition back to food, okay? And the meal replacements themselves can be quite restrictive in terms of calorie intake. So it is better to think about, let's make changes to our food that are going to be lifelong and sustainable.
Great, yeah. Start where you want to end.
Yes,
yeah.
definitely.
Another good one from Heather is, what would exercise look like in the maintenance month? The current regime is two strength and a cardio session a week. Obviously, reading into the concern there is that, well, if I'm meant to be maintaining, if I'm keeping up my exercise, is that okay?
Well, exercise produces, as we've talked about, very small amounts of weight loss. I mean, the data shows it can be anywhere between sort of 0.5 and 2% over the course of the year if you just focused on exercise alone. So it's not a huge contributing factor to the weight. Most of it's coming from the food, but we have to be focusing on it because of the metabolism and the muscle mass we want to hold on to and every other benefit that we get from exercise. But what we're trying to do is say during your weight loss months, you've got to start shaking up what you do. Maybe mix up the intensities, go to new environments, new variety. And then during the maintenance months, just taper down a little bit. Maybe do your normal baseline.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Cool, Heather, hopefully that answers that. We're getting through them here. Okay, now, what about sleep issues in menopause? Does eating better eventually fix this problem?
Yeah, look, it's a challenge that women are up against that us men don't have to go through. I mean, everything from going on the contraceptive pill to pregnancies, menopause, they present challenges that does make it hard to manage your weight, okay? There is a change in hormones during this period of life, which again, we know the data and research shows that fat starts to distribute differently as well. But we also know that this is a time of life where often we prioritize everyone else's health as opposed to ourselves. And lifestyle's not at the forefront of what we're doing every day. We're not prioritizing the exercise and the food and the sleep. And consequently, weight starts to creep up. So what am I saying is that it's not just hormones here. It's actually because our life's changing. We've got to prioritize health at this point in life. It's the number one priority. If you do that, you won't see that weight gain that most people are seeing during that period of life, particularly menopause.
Yeah, okay. Great. And Tamara was asking about, this might be beyond the realms of your sort of, I suppose, expertise, but she's asking about the sleep issues that obviously she's experiencing in menopause.
Yes.
Does addressing, the eating side of things, do you have any evidence or understanding?
Yes. Yeah. So if you can address the the diet and the exercise, it can also address the sleep health. The sleep health can also be contributing to our addiction to devices. We talked about that previously. One of the principles of the IWL Interval Weight Loss Program is actually, re-navigating that time of the day, switching off devices and technology for 1 to 2 hours before bed every night. We have to give our body every chance of not only just falling asleep, but staying asleep. Devices emit blue light, they suppress melatonin production. It cannot be underestimated how impactful this is. It means you have a hard time staying asleep, you have hard times getting to sleep and staying asleep. You wake up the next day sleep deprived, but if I take bloods off you, remember, you're actually hungrier. Ghrelin levels will be surging, the hunger hormone, which means you're going to eat more calories. Because you're sleep deprived, you're less likely to engage in activity. You're also more likely to go for the easier option, the vending machine, as opposed to the nature's treats.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, if you address diet and exercise, it would also help during that period of life with menopause for your sleep health.
Okay, great. Okay, I think we got through most of the questions, doing their best here. So, a couple of general comments. Sue says, I'm 4 months into IWL. There you go, mate.
Great.
And I've successfully changed some habits, but I feel going back to my old ways is still very possible. Yep. And I know a lot of our members who do exercise feel the same way, and that's a matter of, I would imagine, consistency.
Yes, it's hard. It's just like we talked about this analogy as well, the strengthening a muscle over time. It does become easier and easier. Just keep saying no most of the time to the unhealthy foods, and yes, once to twice a week, and eventually you're retraining your brain and those habits become the default, the healthy habits. It does get easier.
Yeah.
But that's a really tricky time. Anywhere between sort of that first, 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, okay. Margaret says, I've used Nick's program in conjunction with BeMobile. I'm not particularly worried about weight, but I've learned a lot of new good habits around eating. As with BeMobile, it takes time and patience to establish new habits. With both programs, I feel stronger to resist temptations. That's great, Margaret. Yes. Good to hear. So Carmel, on Wegovy now, which is a medication. My GP says that when I get to goal weight, I stay on Wegovy for another 6 months, weaning the dose. I don't know how I won't keep losing weight if I'm still on it.
So the transition phase is going to be the challenging thing. What are you doing at the moment while you're taking Wegovy?
Yeah.
Are you following the evidence-based lifestyle intervention and making those changes to set yourself up for lifetime success? That's important.
Yeah. Okay, Nick, I think we should wrap up because you've been very generous with your time. I've got a note here. There's over 120 people that turned up live from the membership.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.